All right, let's get right into it. We're about to unpack one of the absolute wildest documents ever declassified by the US government. Seriously, it's a look inside an official program backed by the US Army and the CIA that was designed from the ground up to engineer human consciousness. And you have to understand, this wasn't some kind of New Age wellness retreat. The stated goal right there in the official 1983 report was to create a state of mind that could, and I'm quoting here, ultimately escape even the restrictions of time and space. I mean, that sounds way more like something out of a sci-fi movie than a government white paper, right?
So that's really the big question we're tackling here. What in the world happens when the military-industrial complex gets serious about investigating out-of-body experiences, remote viewing, and yeah, even time travel? Let's pull back the curtain on the declassified mystery of the gateway process.
So first things first, how did they even think this was possible? Well, the core of the whole program, the engine driving this thing, it wasn't based on mystical chanting or weird rituals. Nope, it was all built on a specific, patented audio technology, designed to literally hack the human brain.
And what's so fascinating is that the science at the very heart of this is, well, it's real. The whole system relies on something called brainwave entrainment, and it's a documented phenomenon where your brain's own electrical patterns, your brainwaves, they literally start to sync up with an external rhythm, like a pulsing sound.
The specific tech they used was called hemisync. Here's the basic idea of how it works. You put on headphones, and it plays a slightly different frequency in each ear. So maybe you've got 200 hertz on the left and 210 on the right. Your brain, trying to make sense of this, actually creates a third phantom beat at the difference, in this case, 10 hertz. Then the amazing part happens. Your brain starts to lock on to that 10 hertz signal, guiding your consciousness into a very specific brainwave state on demand.
Okay, so they had the vehicle, this hemisync technology. But where was it supposed to go? This wasn't just aimless meditation, not at all. It was a highly structured journey with a very, very clear map.
The gateway process laid out this whole series of what they called focus levels. You can almost think of it like a video game for your mind, or a training program. Each level had a specific number and a really clear objective, all designed to take the user from a simple state of relaxation to somewhere else entirely. And the progression here is just staggering when you look at it. You start at focus 3, just to get your mind coherent and balanced. Then you move to focus 10 for that classic mind awake, body asleep state. Then it's on to focus 12 for expanded awareness. But the real endgame, the final boss level, was focus 21. And listen to how they describe it, the bridge to other energy systems. That was the state they designated for interdimensional travel.
But wait a second, how could a US Army report ever justify something like interdimensional travel? Well, to do that, it had to adopt a really radical model of reality, one that it borrowed from the very fringes of theoretical physics. And this is where things get truly mind-bending.
The report went all in on the holographic universe theory. Now, the basic idea here is that physical reality, as you and I know it, it's just an illusion. The universe is actually a single, vast, vibrating field of energy, a hologram. And here's the kicker. The human mind is also a hologram that reads this universal pattern. So normally, our consciousness is kind of like a scattered light bulb, but in these altered states from hemisync, it becomes a coherent laser, capable of accessing information from the entire universal hologram at once. This was their scientific-sounding framework for explaining psychic abilities.
And the physiological model they used for all this? It was based on the work of a scientist named Itzhak Bentov, who had a just fantastic way with words. He basically argued that at our most fundamental level, we're not solid matter at all. As he so perfectly put it, we are hunks of vibrating, wiggly void. Sorry about that. It's a funny line, but it really gets to the heart of the radical shift in thinking you need to even begin to entertain these concepts.
And this all leads to the most esoteric idea in the entire document, something they call the absolute. The report describes it as the source of all reality, this infinite field of conscious energy. And then it makes this incredible leap. It claims that in these deep meditative states, consciousness can literally click out of our reality, out of our time-space, to perceive a dimension where the past, present, and future all exist at the same time. This was their theoretical justification for time travel.
Okay, so that's the theory. A holographic universe, brain-hacking audio, and clicking out of time-space. Let's all just take a breath. Now for the big reality check. Did any of this stuff actually work in the real world? Could it be used for intelligence gathering?
So first, let's look at the promise, because the ideas in the Gateway report were actually tested.
for decades, in a real $20 million psychic spying program called Project Stargate, and its history is full of these really compelling anecdotal hits. Remote viewers were credited with locating a crashed Soviet bomber in the middle of Africa, describing a brand new, secret class of Soviet submarine before any of our spy satellites saw it, and famously, one viewer described a ring around Jupiter months before the Pioneer 10 space probe actually got there and confirmed it. I mean, stories like these are exactly what kept the program going for so long.
But then came the reality. In 1995, the CIA commissioned one last definitive review of the whole program, and the conclusion was absolutely brutal. The report found that no psychic spy had ever provided actionable intelligence, ever. The data was consistently vague, general, and way off target. They found serious methodological flaws, and based on all this, the CIA terminated Project Stargate, concluding that it had completely failed to provide any value to the intelligence community. The operational promise of the gateway remained firmly shut.
And beyond just being operationally useless, these kinds of practices could be personally risky. A major review of mindfulness, which is a much less intense practice than what we're talking about here, found that a staggering 58% of participants reported having negative experiences ranging from anxiety and panic attacks to profound states of dissociation.
So, if psychic spying was a total bust, why are we even talking about this today? Well, because the core ideas in this report, the idea of influencing consciousness with external frequencies and focused intent, they've evolved from these esoteric government projects into very real, very modern-day threats on what's now called the cognitive battlefield.
Just look at the Gateway program's main self-defense tool. It was called the ReBall, a resonant energy balloon. It's basically a visualized force field you create in your mind. But when you put it side by side with something like a traditional magic circle, you can see the connection immediately. The ReBall is just a modernized, internalized magic circle. It's a psychic shield for a technological age. And this idea of an attack on consciousness, it's not hypothetical anymore. Directed energy weapons, which are the likely cause of the Havana syndrome illnesses, have been documented causing severe neurological damage. AI-driven psychological operations are already being used to create hyper-personalized propaganda to exploit our individual fears and biases. And while it's more speculative, the potential for AI-generated frequencies to be embedded in media to induce negative states like confusion or apathy, that is a clear and emerging threat.
So the takeaway here is pretty clear. While old-school psychic attacks remain unproven and anecdotal, the technological weaponization of consciousness through things like directed energy and AI manipulation, that is already here. The battlefield has shifted from the psychic to the digital and the electromagnetic.
And that really brings us to the most crucial point. The real legacy of the gateway process isn't about learning to leave your body or travel through time. It's the uncomfortable realization that consciousness itself is a domain, a territory that can be influenced and attacked. And in this new environment, the ultimate defense isn't a tinfoil hat. It's a sovereign, coherent, and resilient mind. Which leaves us with one final, and I think vital, question. This bizarre journey through declassified government files, it started with the military trying to weaponize consciousness. It ends with a pretty stark reality for every single one of us. If the new front line is our own perception, what tools do we really have to defend it?